So, like, just so you know, the following podcast contains scenes of a sexual nature, some mild language, and scenes that viewers might find disturbing. Nah, I'm kidding. But there will be spoiler warnings. We're going to be spoiling things, but you should have seen it anyway. Why have you not seen it? I've seen it. Have you seen it?
I've seen it.
And have you seen it?
I've seen it.
Right, we've all seen it. Also, there won't be as much strong language as there used to be. Only piss and shit. Nothing more these days. We've all grown up, but we're in our 20s now. We still swear. Well, I'm not, and Josh is not, but we still swear anyway. Anyway, enjoy the show. Cheers. Welcome to another episode of Code and Colour. This week we've got a special episode and we're just going to do a fun little intro. So, on three, guys, on three. Welcome to The Gnome.
The Gnome.
We're not trying that again. We're not trying that again.
One take, that's it.
That's it. That's how we roll.
We do one take. But the Gnome / Code and Colour is the home for all things video games and animation. And this week we are joined by a very special guest, a longtime friend of mine and an ex-co-host. Please welcome Liam.
Hello, I'm back.
Hello. He's back
With
for
the
one
Gnome.
night only. He's the Gnome.
Yep,
He's back for one night only.
Pulled me out of retirement for my podcast days. So we'll
Just
get
when
back
I thought
into
I
it.
was out, they pulled me right back in.
Just when I thought.
Yeah.
The guy's on the other side of the world and he's pulled me back in.
I had a lasso the length of like 10,000 miles, and I was able to get him from cold, wintry Leeds to sunny Geelong, and I got him, and I've clawed him back in. But Liam, welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on.
Thank
How
you.
are you doing?
Thanks for having me. Good. Going well.
How are you doing?
Keen to talk about Avatar.
Avatar: The Last Airbender,
Avatar.
Which is like
Amazing
it's like a
segue.
nice.
Yeah. Last time we
It's like
talked
a nice
was
callback.
about Avatar. Yeah.
It was, and we've roped in Josh on this as well. No, I'm kidding, Josh.
Really, Josh is the guest here.
Yeah, Josh, how have you been?
Not too shabby.
Oi, don't you take my lines. But no, so this week we are going to be talking about Avatar because one of the last things that Liam and I spoke about on The Gnome was the animated show of Avatar The Last Airbender. And with the live action version having come out, it only seemed fitting that we would, discuss it and kind of draw a comparison on the two. And both of you, I want to know your initial thoughts. Who wants to go first?
Yeah.
Go on.
Initial thoughts. Very watchable, entertaining. I'm happy to see a second and third season come through. I do have some gripes, but we're going to get into those later. But overall, I enjoyed it. It was good.
Nice,
Yeah.
Liam.
I'm pretty similar. Like it's not shocking. Obviously, it's not the animated show. It makes me want to watch the animated show, but I think as like a new kind of format on it's not the worst live action remake that I've seen of some content.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
But yes, it has some issues.
It's certainly watchable. It's not the worst. I said to Josh off air yesterday, it's definitely not the worst adaptation I've ever seen. I enjoyed it for what it was, and similarly to Liam, I also want to watch the animated version now. I've seen it countless times, and it's one of my favorite things ever. But I do think it's good. I didn't feel like I wanted to stop watching it, which is a plus, I guess. And I wasn't watching it through the cracks of my hands, you know what I mean? But like, I also was like, damn, they've glazed over a lot of major plot points in the first book, and they also don't reference it as a book, which I find deeply upsetting. But yeah, Josh, why don't you tell us what you liked about it?
I like the fact, the CGI for me was top notch, top tier. Some scenes were better than Marvel movies in recent years.
Yeah.
I kind of bought the
Agreed.
whole world.
Yeah,
The
definitely.
bending the elements felt, like they were pulling bits of dirt up, or wind, water, whatever it may be, and it felt like that was a lived-in world, and CGI helped that. The story, the cast were really good, and everybody that was in it was top tier, and I did like who they brought in, and everybody brought their A game and tried to do the best they could with what they had. I liked Momo. There wasn't enough Momo in there,
Fair enough. Not enough love for Momo.
Momo was cute, and yeah, I liked. One of the things I did like, which is what you guys are talking about, is it ignited my passion for the animated TV shows. Like, actually, yes, this is good. The animated TV show is better, but it made me want to see, like, what are the similarities to this? Because I've watched the animated one, but 2 years ago, and watched Korra since, and I was like, what are the similarities? Because I don't remember certain scenes that happen, and I'm like, oh, I wonder what that looks like in the actual animated version. So yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it. It was very, very watchable, which was what we discussed yesterday with Tyler off air. Was the watchable is the word. I did enjoy it.
Yeah, definitely.
Overall, it was very good. It was one of the better adaptations out there.
Nice, Liam. What are you thinking? What did you like about it?
Pretty similar. Like, I like the more or less the world bending. Bending. I've only seen half of it, but I obviously have seen the animated show like 4 times. I've watched the movie, so that counts.
And
it is a lot better than the movie. That is my thing. It's a lot better than the movie, so that at least is good for me, because I was so excited as a kid watching that movie in IMAX, and I left disappointed as a kid, and that's hard to do. And I've now rewatched that movie, and it's shocking. But yeah, the bending looks great. The sound effects, like the score and the sound and how it like reminds me of the animated show. I reckon they nailed that. Seeing other scenes and stuff like the Fire Nation attacking the Air Temple, pretty cool to see. Is that as the opener? So it's like Sokka and Katara. So I liked some aspects. They've introduced Azula and Ozai early, which I think is a good move. But
I thought it was odd.
It is odd.
I didn't like that.
It is odd, but I think it's going to build up, because obviously it's an actual live action show. They're going to promote with the cast. They're going to do that kind of stuff. So I think in today's day and age with social media and TikTok and everything, like, actors and stuff live from that, and it does build momentum. But it is odd they've been introduced, Azula at least, so early. I don't understand Ozai, but yeah, it does take away a bit from Zuko, but I think Zuko and Iroh were done really well.
Really well.
So for the things I really like, and I think I'll touch on that last point then. For me, I liked the casting for the majority of the cast. I thought Sokka, like, there were, which is funny because the actor got a lot of backlash for being Sokka, but he is fantastic as Sokka. Yeah. I was like, that's him. That is him. And then similarly with Kyoentu as Katara, I think she's great. The Zuko actor, fantastic. Iroh, he's the dude out of Mandalorian, isn't he?
Yeah, love him.
Yeah, big fan of that. Who else? Yeah, I mean, Daniel Day Kim as Fire Lord Ozai, supreme casting, supreme. Like, truly, I was like, yes, that is great. And I think there was a bit of discussion off air whether Ko, the spirit, I mean, Liam hasn't seen that one, was if George Takei, because it's George Takei in the show, but I can't remember if it was him in the animated show. Either way, George Takei is great in it. Just overall the casting is pretty good. Like, I really like it. I did like the bending, other than fire bending. That's my only real concern, was fire bending. The earth bending, I think the earth bending looks the best.
Earth bending,
maybe the air bending as well. The water, I think for me the rough points are air and fire bending. The earth and water bending look really good. Like, they are really good, and I like that they kept Katara with her bottle.
Yes, definitely.
I do like that they kept that, because I was like, I hope that they still give her that, because otherwise, what is she going to do? You know what I mean? Especially in book 2, when they're predominantly in Passing Say. There's not a lot of water there, is there? So, yeah, no, I really liked that, and I did enjoy it. I found myself like it's really weird, but I think because they've changed a lot of the lore points, which we should talk about. It felt like a different but very similar story. So I did find myself go, "What's going to happen? I need to watch the next one. I need to know what's going to happen."
It's
from that standpoint, that's good.
Like a reimagining more than like a full remake.
Yeah,
just like a love note to the original series.
Yeah, and
it still
was
hits
done...
the same like crucial points.
Yeah,
but not all in the same order, or the same. Yeah,
it was tasteful, but yeah, there are a few issues, and I know Josh is dying to dig into those things. Look at him! Look at him! He's like bursting at the seams to get these out. But I'd like to... Let's not just dive in. Oh, and I don't like this. Oh, and I don't like this. Yeah. Oh, and I also don't like this. Why don't we break it down into elements? So let's talk about the casting first, because I like some of it. There are a few issues, and I know Josh has a lot of issues with this. Oh, also, the actor who plays Zhao is great, and it's obviously Juntao from Rush Hour, which Josh pointed out to me yesterday. Love that. My biggest casting fail is Azula. It's just... she's just not. And Tylee and May as well, but we won't talk about that.
yeah.
Question: are they in the first season?
No,
I don't think Azula's in book one. Nor
Azula's
is
not
Tylee
even in the first season at all. And then Tylee and Mai are the same. Like they don't rock up until like season 2 when Azula starts to hunt down Aang and everyone as well.
Okay,
because I'm pretty sure the season. So I don't really want to spoil it for Liam, but the way that book 2 has, but the way book 1 ends is something that happens in book 2.
Right, okay.
In the show. So obviously Azula seizes Amashu. Yeah, she seizes Amashu, but that happens in book 2. That doesn't happen in book 1, I'm pretty sure.
Pretty sure it's early book 2.
Thank you for reminding me about that. Right, I wanted to see that.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, there's like a two episode arc on that in the second book. I'm almost certain of it.
I think they'll touch on it in season 2, but like they was obviously doing whatever they were doing at the end of this season, which I won't spoil. But like then he goes, "Oh, she's taking Amashu," and I'm like, "Oh, I would have loved to have seen that." Like, why was that not like 2 episodes itself?
Yeah, that's a heavy plot point because Boomy obviously like puts up a fight as well and Boomy was sick.
Boomy was
like at his. Yeah, I thought he was all right. He was all right.
I think
anyway, we're on casting.
Yeah.
That's casting.
Really?
I wasn't a fan of the Boomy cast. Like he's not like he's a younger, buffer guy made to look old. Obviously, they're not going to get a ripped old guy, but
they're going to get like someone like Christopher Lloyd.
Boomy well. He played Boomy well, but I wasn't 100% sold on him. And then I don't love Katara, to be honest. I think maybe just the character itself in the show is different. The casting is pretty spot on for what she looks like, but I just don't feel like she is Katara.
I'm with Liam on this. Like
interesting.
I like the children actors that are in it.
Yeah,
but I don't think they're charismatic enough to carry this show. Like I said to you off air, the Stranger Things kids. They've carried that. They've carried it because they're compelling, they're charismatic. They've got each one of their quirks. I feel like there's also the best they've got with what they've paid for, kind of thing.
Stranger Things also doesn't have anything to compare it to. Like it is the only thing you could essentially compare it to is The Breakfast Club or Stand By Me, like actual 80s movies.
Yeah,
which is obviously what they're inspired by. Whereas like Avatar
Goonies and stuff too.
Yeah, Avatar and even essentially Korra, because those characters are in that as well. We know a lot about those characters and their personalities. So I think they did the best with what they could do.
Yes.
I don't think there was a lot of actors that could have done that better, especially at a young age, because they're young characters. They're not like professionally trained yet.
That's the only input I have. Shine as well, like Ira and Ozai. Like you could definitely see, like
you could see that Ira was
actors,
like stealing the show, and like they're like they were carrying the show on their shoulders. Like
definitely.
Ira was fabulous.
I feel like as it goes on, hopefully, obviously, like it hasn't actually been renewed yet, but I would love to see a season 2, season 3, obviously, because there's like so much you would want to see in that live action format. Like
I'm just
but we'll see
stressed
as the
about
kids
it,
maybe
but-
get older, but they are going to get older, so it also kind of can mess things up. So we'll just have to
Well, this
see.
is like another thing as well, because they're going to do it in a traditional Netflix style
Yeah.
and take about 3 years between each season, which
Definitely.
isn't going to work for the format, because the animated show takes place over the space of like maybe a year, maybe.
I think it's supposed to be just
'Cause
a
obviously-
year.
Yeah, because
Sozin's
Sozin's Comet is back in orbit, right? That's the point. They're going to take like 3 years. The guy that plays Aang is going to be like Lucas from Stranger Things and have facial hair by the end of it.
Yeah. I think they should have been committed to the project and gone like, let's film 3 seasons back to back.
Back to back.
Yeah.
Like they did with the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. Just say this is what you're committing to. You're committing to 3 years of work. We'll pay you a lot. Enjoy. And then you've got each one of them done, back to back.
Because I guarantee they haven't even cast Toph yet, and if they get that wrong, I'll be absolutely devastated.
Oh, definitely. Best
That
character.
will make or break book 2 for me. It genuinely will make or break book 2. I think Zuko was a strong casting, and I actually think he did a really good job as Zuko. But yeah, so the weaker ones for me was in the main, sort of the main cast. It was definitely Azula. I think she just didn't have that kind of, it's almost sort of sassy teenage angst that
not really
that
fierce
Azula
enough.
has. Yeah, I don't feel like she was menacing. I just thought she was a bit of a bitch more than anything. And like, I didn't like, she was Azula's meant to be disliked, but I think in this she was disliked for the wrong reasons. I think she was disliked because she just didn't feel like she was as menacing as Azula is meant to be. But I think that is also because they introduced her far too soon as well, like Liam said. That shouldn't have happened. Ozai, yes, again, they can get on board with that. And I think they really wanted to show the Agni Kai in this season, which they shouldn't have done. But yeah, I don't know.
I think they should have kept Ozai under wraps, like they did with Mark Hamill. I think they should have kept him in the dark and not showing him.
Yeah.
His presence, because his presence throughout the books is like, this is Fire Lord Ozai. He is.
They
the
speak
ultimate
about
fireman. Yeah, like
you usually see him from behind, don't you? So you never see what he
like
really looks like.
in the front of the fire. And the
like he's a
throne.
deity. Like he's like he's Fire Lord Ozai.
He's the
and
Fire Lord.
When you finally see him, and he shows up with Aang, end of book 3, and it's that big fight. You're like, this guy he's the fire guy.
Yeah,
because it's just shown straight away, and he looks horrendous.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because it's when Aang goes to. So I don't know if you've seen this bit yet. So you won't have seen this bit, but Aang goes to the fire temple to go and see Avatar Roku. Right? Like that Roku, yeah. And the sages are like, screw the Avatar, basically. We've got Fire Lord Ozai. But that's when they should have kept Ozai away from the screen, because I feel like we've seen what he can do already. Like, we've already seen Ozai's ability, and like his presence needed to be felt, not seen, really. That's what it needed to be for a long time. At least till the end of season 2, I would have said. Sort of the back end of season 2 is when they should have introduced Ozai. And I think now is a good point to touch on another thing that I dislike, and I know that you dislike it as well, Josh. Ozai and a lot of the costuming and the character design in this show. That goatee.
That goatee. Honestly, someone walked up to him and went, like, it looks horrendous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My overall issue with a lot of this costuming, and don't get me wrong, it's obviously better than the movie, the costumes.
Oh yeah.
I just think it feels like a fan-made YouTube series.
Definitely.
Like the colors, it's almost too bright. Like, you could have dulled down the colors a little bit on Aang's.
Like the Earth Kingdom stuff as well. Like,
it's all just too like
green.
Fire Nation is red.
I want battle worn, like Earth armor.
Yeah,
not this pristine.
Like
this isn't it's not Ba Sing Se, it's so marshy. Like it's like the trade.
It's just
it's not.
It's just not a big fortress that they're making it out to be. Yeah,
I didn't like the makeup of some of the characters as well, like Aang and Katara. Like some of them scenes when they were like, I think they were in the forest or they were looking at something, and I looked at Aang's face and I looked at Katara, and they looked like they just come out of a L'Oreal advert. Like they were just like
too smooth.
all like no blemishes, just look absolutely perfect. And I'm like, it looks like that's been caked on with a trowel. Like, you know.
Do you know
just
what
be
I
normal.
found jarring about Aang's makeup was, which I don't know why they do it as well. He's got the paisley pattern on his hair, like
I think
in his arrow.
The arrow
I
is
don't
like,
mind
really
that,
good.
but
I think
if you see it on his hands, it looks
it's
smudged.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
It looks really bad. And so if you're going to commit to one, you need to commit to it all.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, because if they're like, those arrows are like really representative of airbending, and they look awful on his arms and hands.
Yeah,
I think it's a good like middle ground from like the solid that we had on the cartoon to, if you look at M. Night Shyamalan's movie, which is like the weirdest tattoo spiral shit ever.
Yeah.
I think it is good, especially when it lights up. It does look good. I must say the Avatar state like effects.
Yeah, oh yeah, so good.
Good, yeah.
Just to touch back on casting for just 1 second. One of the gripes I had is they didn't really have any much love for any legacy characters. Like, I would have liked to have seen the voice actor who played Zuko in the film in the TV show in some capacity.
Dante Basco. He might come back though.
But like,
I think he said he was keen.
The old voice actor be, the cabbage man selling something. Do you know what I mean? Like
cabbages.
Do like a Star Wars, pull people in. I don't need this is older version Aang, or this is someone playing someone integral. But like Last of Us, for instance, had Ellie and Troy Baker both in there in some capacity.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
I think the problem is
sprinkle some goodness.
I do get what you're saying. They needed to be voice characters, I guess. But the problem is, and this is what I was explaining to you yesterday, you're dealing with sort of a multicultural sort of world in that regard, where white people aren't present, really, at all. Apart from that one random dude in the Northern Water Tribe who plays Paku. Like, that is weird. And it was jarring. It was jarring. But everyone else was a person of, I guess, like culture or color, I guess. But apart from, I don't think Sokka was he? Because it was the reason he got a lot of backlash was that he's just from Texas. Fair. But I'm pretty like he definitely. There's something in there. Like that's all I'm saying. Yeah. There's definitely something in there, But I think it would have just stuck out like a sore thumb if, like, Mae Whitman, who voiced Katara, just turned up. Like, I'd be like, and then you heard her. Weird.
Yeah.
At least Dante Basco is like he's of that sort of ethnicity. So it would make sense for him to be there. I don't know who he'd play because he's got such a unique voice that I could only hear Zuko. To the point that in Korra they didn't age him up; they just kept him with the same voice. Yeah. And then he voiced his son, didn't he? In Korra, I think. I'm pretty sure he voiced Zuko. Did he voice Zuko's
Possibly.
son?
No, he voiced the general, the Zhao Zhao's Commander Zhao or something. He plays Commander something or other.
Isn't he related to Zuko though?
I think so, in some capacity. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it would be weird if he wasn't. But yeah, so I don't know. That was the trouble with it being a Nickelodeon show set in a almost like Asian culture, because it's Nickelodeon. They're all white. The entire cast is like white. So I could see why they would have. I do get what your point is. They could have probably done voice acting for that, but yeah, it's a difficult one. My other biggest gripe is just the lack of Appa and Momo.
Yeah,
I hear that.
They're just not in it. They're just not in it. I just where are they? Like, Appa is so fundamental.
Start an episode with like Appa flying through the sky, and then now they're on the floor. We don't see Appa again,
and that's it. We don't see Appa again.
Momo,
there was
one shot.
The whole Omashu. But Momo, he's budget. This big. Like, what are you telling me? Like, in the whole Omashu arc, you see Momo and Appa at the start, and Momo and Appa at the end. There's almost no point to having Momo there. At least Appa serves a purpose.
Speaking of Appa, in the first episode when he breaks out the ice, why is Appa still in the ice? And then when he blows his whistle thing, that Boomy made for him.
Yeah.
There's no broken ice. He just sort of appears and flies down. I was like, no, I needed some sort of bison, a big beastie animal, break out the ice,
fly down.
He just sort of appeared, and I was like, Did he just break out the ice then? Is that what we're doing then? 1,000 years.
I have
100 years.
a real issue with that whole beginning arc in the Southern Water Tribe.
This is why I don't
because
Are you ready?
Right.
Ready?
One of the first things that Aang does when he gets out of the ice is go skiing with the penguin seals.
Penguins, yeah.
That is exactly what he does. It's the first thing he says. He's like, oh my God, I'm in the South. I want to go and ski. I'm in the South Pole. I want to go ski with the penguins. And he doesn't do it. And like I said to Josh yesterday, like this is a real fundamental part of his like character. It almost shows that yes, he's the Avatar, but he is at the core of it still a kid. And he doesn't have that at all. Like, he very quickly forgets that he's a kid.
Yeah.
He has that bit in episode 2 when they're at the Kyoshi Island where he rolls around on the airball, crashes into the statue, like he does in the show. And that's it.
Yeah,
There's almost never any more mention of him being a kid.
Yeah.
Speaking of Kyoshi Island, when she takes over and she does Avatar stuff.
Yeah.
Avatar state.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
She's doing Avatar things in the Avatar state. All I could think of was like, I really need like a live action Dragon Ball thing because it just gave me that vibe of like her just darting off, and I was just like
wiping the floor.
Yeah, she comes down, smoke flies everywhere, dust flies everywhere. She's like, doing all these different things, and I was like, oh my God, I need a live action Dragon Ball, and she just like darts off and like flies. I was like, yes. Yes,
it wouldn't be good.
That would just be it just wouldn't be good. The thing is replicating things like that is difficult, and I don't know if I thought that looks that good. Because for me,
it's tough.
Definitely,
like
it is
going from a cartoon with special powers and stuff, especially like Avatar also being like goofy and like Aang being a child. Like it is hard to get that where they can exaggerate those expressions more in an animated show. Especially like if you try Dragon Ball, like it's going to take so much work and it's just not going to be received well, probably.
Speaking of a good segue, because obviously the Dragon Ball, there
was no word mention of the good.
Josh
Josh does this. He'll go, speaking of like The Last of Us, and then mention like Pokemon or something, and it will just be like, what?
No. This has a point, right? So
let him land. Tin hat.
Right.
Yeah, Devil's Advocate.
How do you tell your audience you're a huge Zack Snyder fan without saying you're a huge Zack Snyder fan? You put the line from one of his best films right in the beginning of the first episode. So I told you to remind me of something when we did the pod about this line. So when Aang's talking to the old man, who was his friend,
Gyatso. It's not just an old man.
It's Monk Gyatso, like.
So if you
respect on his name.
If you cast your mind back to phenomenal DC movie Man of Steel, and Pa Kent is talking to young Kent.
Actually, I have seen this. Yeah, it's exact.
Yeah, and he goes, "Can't I still pretend to be your son?" And he's like, oh, "You are my son." What does Aang say to Gyatso? Can't I still pretend to be your friend? Still pretend to be your friend. I was like, that's like ripped out of Man of Steel. Like, come on, write your own words, people.
Yeah,
I didn't like that intro. I'll be honest with you. I get why they did it, but also we didn't get it in the animated show, and we knew when we felt the presence of the Fire Nation.
Does he run away?
There was a lot of
He does actually just run away from training in the animated. I'm pretty sure.
Does he?
Whereas
I can't remember
in the show, like in the live action, he just like flies off because he wants to think, and then he gets hit by a wave. Yeah.
But not those two things correlating don't make sense. Like, why is he just suddenly like? Why is the night he flies away suddenly there's a like? It just felt a little bit like they shoehorned in this sort of fearsome presence of Sozin being the Fire Lord. I was like, I don't like this like at all. Like tonally, it sets off on the wrong tone. I think.
I did like them murdering all the air.
Yes, right. So speaking.
It was a good fight.
It was a good scene. I was like, yeah, fire. This is the first bending. Like, this looks good. Fight. And then everyone's dying. I'm like, I didn't see this in the animated show. Cool to see. Right. Other parts. Yeah.
I didn't like it.
When that guy dies right at the beginning of the TV show, and he gets burned, and you see him get cooked.
Yeah, I didn't like that either. That's why I love that firebending.
I love that. I was like, oh, we're in for a bit of a more mature tone, and like this dude's fully getting cooked. You can see him getting cooked, and I was like, okay, I'm going to strap myself in. I love a good bit of barbecue. And then everything else that happened all the way through it just seemed like really PG-13, really toned down.
Yeah.
And I was like, pick a tone. Like, you want to be adult? You want to cook some random, freedom fighter? Go for it. But then everything else felt like, we can't go too far. We can't do this. We gotta pull this back. And I was like, no, cook some people. Let's see what the Fire Lord can do.
My issue with that bending is he doesn't bend. He just touches him and then he sets fire.
Yeah, that is.
And I'm like, that's not how bending works. That almost felt like he was.
It's inspired by martial arts. So
it almost felt like he was conjuring that fire, rather than bending. Like the idea is that the martial arts, right? It's movement. It's about movement, like moving with the elements. And he just touches that guy and he sets fire. All he did there was essentially conjure fire, which is not what they're doing. They're not conjuring. They're bending elements that exist around them. And that I was like, that's why I don't like firebending, because they kept doing that as well. The only character that looked like an actual firebender was Zuko, because he does all his flips and his kicks and that. And I was like, that's sick. That is firebending. Yeah. Everything else looks shite. Yeah, I hope that they've learned some things from the first season, because in the animated show, like the first season, I would say book 1 is one of the weaker ones out of the 3 anyway. Book 2 is like supreme. Prime for me. I think book 2 is the best one. Even though, book 3, you've got the whole Sozin's Comet sort of story arc.
Yeah, like, the whole end.
Ba Sing Se and Appa's Lost Days. God, I'm not ready for that.
Oh, I don't think we'll see it. Like, they're cutting out all these side stories. Unless we get more episodes in a second season, I think then we would.
The trouble is, I don't know if audiences are going to feel it either, because Appa's adorable, but we've not seen enough Appa for it to be justified.
To be attached and stuff,
Also, you won't have seen it. Right, that owl, I can't remember his name, but you know the owl from that library arc?
Yeah. Big tall owl, big birdie.
He wasn't introduced until book 2, was he? Because he's in this season.
He might actually have been in the
in the spirit. I don't know if he is. Because I remember seeing the owl and going, that is scaring the shit out of me.
Yeah,
that's terrifying.
I hate owls, man. Hate them.
That is a terrifying creature. Go on, Josh.
Speaking of things that are not in the books and not in the TV show, the intro. I like the intro of the TV show. Fire, water, and all these things. They say it right at the beginning of the first episode.
You just reminded me of something. That's so corny.
But I didn't like I didn't like the just it's Last Airbender, Avatar Last Airbender thing. I wanted the fire, water.
I want that intro every time.
I wanted that.
That was cool.
The one intro.
But I tell you what was
shows never skip that intro. Like
I tell you what was corny. You know the speech that Katara does in the intro in the animated one, the water, earth. Avatar, when we needed them the most, he vanished. Right. The fact that Gran says that. Yeah. Oh God.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was so corny. It just didn't.
She took me out. Awful. Every time she spoke, she took me out of it.
Yeah, but when she did that speech, I was like, no. All that does is add context. It doesn't add context to the characters that exist. Like, they don't need to hear that context. That context is for us as viewers.
Yeah.
And it felt really awful.
Yeah, it was
awful.
Yeah.
It was like super like shoe on, back of your shoe, that mate. It was just, that really irked me out. I remember listening to this going, I want this to end immediately. Like, I almost didn't continue watching the show because of that one moment. I was like, I can't. Yeah, she was an awful actress as well, which didn't help.
Yeah, not a fan.
But also, she just added nothing. And her going, when we needed him the most, he vanished. If I was Aang, I'd be like, what do you want me to do? I got lost at sea. Like, I don't know what you want me to do. At no point did he go, literally none of this was my fault.
Yeah. He never stands there and goes, actually, I didn't leave you. I just got caught in a wave and then got trapped for years. And never says it. By the time
that he left, he wasn't even aware that the Fire Nation were attacking. Like, he had no idea. He just was like, I'm just not training. I'm just can't be arsed with that today.
Yeah, I'm just going to go up to the sky
and then I got lost at sea. In his mind, the worst tragedy is that he got lost at sea. That's it. And not one person's gone, shit, you're right. Like, you've been at sea, frozen for 100. Like, that's That's
Why
a
did
hell
you
of a
leave
lot.
us?
Like,
Why did you leave us? Why
What do you
did
mean?
you not
I didn't
show up?
leave
ran
you.
away.
I didn't
Like,
leave
at no
you.
point did he go.
ran.
At no point did he go. I got lost at sea. Like, I had a tantrum. I ran away from my. I get why he wouldn't say I ran away from my duties, but I had just found out I was the Avatar like 10 minutes ago. So I was like, bro, I need a minute to take this in. And then in that minute, I died. That's literally what happened. And he's just there like, yeah. And then when he goes back to the spirit world and sees Gyatso, and Gyatso's like, there's nothing you could have done, by the way. Well, obviously, that he didn't know.
Yeah.
He had no idea. I think kind of let's get to a sort of an endpoint with this, really. Like, I think the show is good. I will watch the second book because it kept my attention, which is better than other adaptations, put it that way.
Yes.
Wait. Oh, go on.
Speaking of adaptations, right? I'm going to touch on this point lightly, right?
Oh,
one
for
of my
the love
gripes.
Christ. I told
One
you.
of my gripes is that this is very similar. Like, it is very similar to the animated TV show, and for that reason, you should just go watch the animated TV show. And I think that it works because it is very similar, because they're not straying too far from it, and I think that's why it's very watchable and you can sort of see what's happening. But I would have liked them to sort of taken some risks, done some things different to sort of not.
I think
so
tonally they should have gone darker.
Yeah, like, and for me, and I'm only going to touch on this slightly, I am currently watching season 2 of Halo, and
Wow,
they have
mate.
gone, no, listen. And they've gone,
let him land,
so far field that it's like, you should have just stayed within the material and you would have had a banging TV show and you would have had so many fans that they've gone
but
so
they let that
far
down in
off.
episode 1 of the first season.
Yeah, they've gone so far. Like, in season 2, still so far. They've killed people that are not even dead yet. Like, and I'm like, it doesn't make sense. Like, you're alienating the people that
Is
actually
Arbiter
like this.
in it yet?
Yes, no, a version of him is yes. But
Why not just bring the Arbiter in it?
And it's good, like, it's entertaining, but I'm like, you had a really good story, and like with this, they've got a really good story, and they've stayed really close to it, being in Kyoshi, meeting Amber Midhunter, who's in, Predator, what is it, Prey, banging, I didn't think her casting was as good as I thought it would be, but
who's sorry?
Amber Midhunter, who plays Princess Zui.
Yue.
Yeah, I think they were really good.
Oh,
but
it
like,
was her. I didn't recognize her with the grey hair.
I just think that, like, because it was so similar, it is a decent adaptation. But I feel like they should have taken more risks.
It's almost like, is it worth watching when you could just watch a much better?
Yeah, exactly.
I think there's like a fine line for adaptations where something like The Lord of the Rings gets it right. Like, there's obviously Lord of the Rings is an adaptation from a book, Josh. Come on.
No. I thought you were thinking like Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, and I was like, well, Rings of Power.
No. I'm on about Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
The movie. I'm on about the movies here. But like, the thing that makes that book trilogy, that film trilogy works, is it takes what is important to that storyline and fleshes it out well, and it is serious. Like, I think tonally it's very serious, which is what made the early seasons of Game of Thrones work as well. But they've also taken things away that are like, yes, Tom Bombadil not being in the Lord of the Rings films, people were like, Tom Bombadil is not in this, but that's almost like, but does Tom Bombadil serve a purpose that is needed? Because no. Right, they take the elements that they do and they make them work well. Like, they've given that enough time. Peter Jackson has given the elements of the Lord of the Rings enough time and love that it just feels real. Like, it's like, okay, cool, this is a serviceable quality adaptation which went on to win Oscars. Like, that they you can tell that the love and effort went into this. With Avatar, and I guess also with a lot of other adaptations like Halo, The Last of Us, Super Mario, it just feels like they're taking a beloved property and have gone, people will watch it because they love these characters. We'll just throw in any story. And no, you need to respect. I think that's the problem with, again, a lot of Marvel as well. You don't respect the fans that came first, that made these properties loved. Yeah. Whereas with Lord of the Rings, people love those. People almost love those more than the books.
But they got that wrong with Rings of Power. Like, they brought characters in that shouldn't have even been in there. Like, they didn't respect it at all. They just went, people will watch this because it's Lord of the Rings. We can do what we want. And that's what they've done with Halo.
Precisely.
And I think they've stayed quite close with Avatar, being like, actually, people watch this because of the animated show, so we need to be really close to this. And I actually think they should have taken more risks. They should have done more, gone bigger, or gone, just and not like, oh, we need Azula in straight away, or we need to show Fire Lord Ozai because we needed to just let them cook a bit longer.
Let him
cook. And
I think.
And it would have been better for it, But I think they were trying to like, here's Fire Lord Ozai. See, Lucas agrees,
That's Rufus.
Rufus.
He agrees, everyone. No, but it is definitely one of the better sort of Netflix adaptations as well in terms of like anime and stuff. They flew definitely a little bit too close to the sun, I think, with it a little bit. I don't know if I'm entirely on board with everything they've done in this show, especially merging storylines like Jet and Sai being in Amashu, which I don't think is correct, but they did it anyway. And I also don't remember Zhao being introduced that early either, but I could be wrong. I can't remember. I haven't watched the animated show in a while. But yeah, I think so. It's a good show, right? I think we are all in agreement that it's a good show. I am keen to see what they do with it. I do think they need to iron out a few kinks with the with the rest of it going forward. Ideally, if you can, it's not too late to recast Azula. Just because she's such a prominent force in book 2, I'd like to see a better version of her. And I do think that they need to show the season of Amashu. Like, you are right there, Josh.
I feel like Azula needs to be older, like more like a 11 kind of like.
I feel like she needs to be taller.
Yes, yeah. Like
that's her problem is that she just needs to be taller, because Ozai is like a force to be reckoned with. Even Zuko feels like a force to be reckoned with, despite the fact he has a lot of learning to do. But he's tall. Like, he's shown as quite tall. Azula she's like down here. Do you know what I mean? She's just more like she's just felt like an annoying little sister rather than she might kill me. This system might kill me. Like, that's some Game of Thrones shit. Like, I want some Game of Thrones level. Like, I don't like my sibling. I want to be in power. That's what I want, and that's what they need to do with Azula.
And hopefully, we get there. Like, hopefully there will be more seasons. Like, it's like probably a guarantee.
And just make it a 15. Like, don't go this 12A stuff. I want a 15. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And don't make book 3 part 1 and part 2 when you release it, because I'll absolutely flip my lid.
Oh yeah.
5 hours an episode. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You just know that they're gonna, like, if they do with Appa's Lost Days, right? They'll either do it as 1 episode, they'll either not do it or do it as 2 episodes.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, no, stop it! Just round that off in 1:45. Like, it's a 45-minute episode. The episode in the animation is 25 minutes, and I get to the point. The only episode that I want to see be long is the final episode of book 3, because the animated one's 90 minutes.
Like, that fight has to be everything.
That has to be like 2 like colossal forces coming together. Yeah. Him in the ball with the rocks going around him in the fire.
And it needs to be 90 minutes.
And it needs to be like top tier CGI, just smashing everything.
I'd actually be happy if they went, we're making it 2 hours. I'd be fine with that. I'll be fine with that. Like, just make sure you get it right. Anyway, so I do recommend watching it. If you've never seen Avatar, go and watch the animated one, because it's better.
Yeah.
If you have seen the animated one, do watch this, because it is good, and it's nice to draw comparisons. Don't get me wrong. It isn't amazing. It's not groundbreaking, but it is what it is. That is our thoughts on Avatar.